As you well know, in the middle of September, General Petraeus is going to come back and report to the President, the Congress, and the American people about what's happening in Iraq. And then a great debate will start. And that debate will be the Democrats who want to set a date, and some weak Republicans who want to set a date for withdrawal from Iraq. My friends, I will take my stand in behalf of freedom and letting this strategy win and succeed and defeating Al-Qaeda. That's what my stand is. I cannot look you and the families of the brave men and women who are serving in sacrifice and do anything else. And my friends, I would rather lose a campaign than lose a war. And that's what So let me just tell you what's happening in Iraq. There is success. In Anbar province, the sheikhs have come over to our side and the casualties and the attacks are way down. There are neighborhoods in Baghdad which are safer, where American and Iraqi soldiers are out in the community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing security for the people so they can go forward with their economic and social and political lives. Is there problems? Yes. Are there still horrific suicide bombers? Yes. Is there still challenges? Is the Maliki government performing effectively as we wanted to? No. Are the police up to the standards we want them to be? No. But I can tell you that they are making progress, and we could see a scenario where in some months ahead, where Americans could draw back, turn over responsibilities to the Iraqi military, and eventually leave Iraq. But I want to tell you what happens if we fail. If the Democrats want to set a date for withdrawal, you're going to see chaos and genocide in the region, and we'll be back. Can you believe that the majority leader of the United States Senate, Democrat Senator Harry Reid, declared the war lost? Declared the war lost. My friends, if the war is lost, who won? Al-Qaeda? Are you going to tell those 160,000 brave young Americans who are serving that we've just lost the war in Iraq? They don't believe it. They don't believe it, my friends. They don't believe it. So I believe that this is a tough struggle. I'd like to give you a little straight talk. It was badly mismanaged by Rumsfeld. It was badly mismanaged for a long time. But if you read Zarqawi, if you read Bin Laden, if you hear everything that Al-Qaeda says on Al Jazeera and on the internet, it's not Iraq they're after. It's us. It's us. This is now part of a long, hard, titanic struggle between everything we stand for and believe in and the evil of radical Islamic extremism that wants to destroy everything that's good in America and the world. And that's what's at stake here. I'd like to point out, my friends, that it's not just Iraq. The Iranians, as we speak, are exporting IEDs into Iraq to kill Americans. They are trying to develop nuclear weapons. The Israelis are besieged in the south by a terrorist government in Gaza, and in the north in Lebanon, where Hezbollah has taken over another terrorist organization. The president of Iran comes to the United States and says at the United Nations that they're dedicated to the extinction of the state of Israel and they're developing nuclear weapons. These are dangerous times. These are dangerous and tough times in the world. Meanwhile, Putin in Russia tries to restore the old Russian Empire. My friends, I look into his eyes and I see three letters, a K, a G, and a B. That's what Putin is all about, and we're not going to stand for the Russians to continue the exploitation and the abuses of human rights that they and the efforts that they are making along with the Iranians and others. My friends, this is a dangerous world. I am running for president not because I'm the youngest candidate, but because I am the most prepared. I am the most prepared. My entire life has prepared me. Service for 22 years in the United States Navy, service to our country in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. I am prepared to lead, and I promise you, we will win this war against this evil. We will never, ever surrender. They will. Dear friends from the VFW Post have presented me with this flag, and I would like to thank them, and I'm grateful. And it reminds me of a story that I'd like to end up by telling you, and then I'd like to respond I'd like to then respond to any questions or comments or insults that you might have. This flag reminds me of a story that happened a long, long time ago to me and far away in a prison cell in Hanoi. For a long time, the Vietnamese kept the American prisoners in conditions of solitary confinement or 2 or 3 to a cell. The reason why they did that is it's easier to break people down if you keep them separate and in solitary confinement, as I was for a couple of years. Thanks to the efforts of millions of Americans and bracelet wearers and others, the Vietnamese, after several years, changed our treatment and put us into cells of 25 or 30 prisoners in each cell. It was a wonderful change, as you can imagine. One of the prisoners that moved into the cell with me was a young man named Mike Christian. Mike Christian came from a small town near Selma, Alabama. Came from a very poor family. He told me he didn't wear a pair of shoes until he was 13 years of age. At 17, he enlisted in the United States Navy, later went through the NESEP program, became an officer, and was a bombardier navigator on an A-6 intruder, who was shot down about a year before I was. His change is part of the change in treatment. The Vietnamese allowed us to have certain small items of clothing from home and packages, some of us. The uniform that we wore in prison was a blue short-sleeve shirt, blue trousers that looked like pajama trousers. For shoes, we had sandals that were cut out of automobile tires. I recommend them highly. One pair lasted me for 5.5 years. Mike Christian got himself a piece of white cloth and a piece of red cloth and made himself a bamboo needle, and over a period of about a month, he sewed on the inside of his blue shirt an American flag. Every evening before we would take Mike's shirt, put it on the wall before we had our bowl of soup. We would take Mike's shirt with the flag on and put it on the wall of our prison and a cell and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I will freely admit to you that saying the Pledge of Allegiance normally is not the most important part of our day. I can assure you that pledging our allegiance to our flag and our country in that prison cell, some of those guys had already been there for 7 years, was indeed the most important and meaningful part of our day. One day the Vietnamese came into our cell, searched the cell as they did periodically, found my shirt with the flag sewn inside of it. They removed it. That evening they returned to our cell, opened the door of the cell, called Mike Christian to come out. They closed the door of the cell, and for the benefit of all of us, beat him very severely for about the next hour. The completion of which they opened the cell and threw him back in. As you can imagine, he was in pretty bad shape. We cleaned him up as well as we could, and I went to lie down. The cell in which we lived was a room about the size of this room, and each corner of the cell had a naked light bulb that shone 24 hours a day, rather dimly. Well, I went to lie down on the couch, on the slab, on the concrete slab, and I happened to just look over in the corner of the cell as I was lying down, and I happened to see in the corner of the cell, beneath the light bulb, with a piece of white cloth and a piece of red cloth, and his bamboo needle, and another shirt. His eyes almost shut from the beating that he had received, of course, was my friend Mike Christian, sewing another American flag. He wasn't sewing that flag because it made him feel better. He was sewing that flag because he knew how important it was for us to be able to pledge our allegiance to our flag and our country. And today, there are young men and women who are over there in Afghanistan and Iraq and around the world, putting it on the line for this great flag of ours in the tradition of my dear and wonderful friend,